Thank you, Cassie. Thank you for inviting us over and letting me do this presentation. I had a lot of fun creating this presentation as well, and I hope you guys learned something about it. So the topic of today and the title of this presentation is Healthy Gut. And we're going to discuss the relationship between food and our microflora. So some learning objectives today is going to be to understand the significance of microorganisms and the importance of the unique function in our overall health. Distinguish the difference between the two food components, probiotics and prebiotics. Evaluate whether food influences the growth and development of microorganisms in our GI tract, and discuss the different methods to sustain your gut microflora. So to begin, I would like to discuss about microorganisms in general. So as in current times, microbes don't really have a good relationship with us humans, unfortunately. And I think we could all have a say on why we don't really like them too much. It just seems like throughout history, humans have been on an ongoing battle with microbes. However, most life is constantly in touch with them, quite literally. And though we cannot see them or feel them, I assure you, they feel nice and cozy where they are. So microbes can be divided into 6 major groups. We have fungi, viruses, bacteria, archaea, algae, and protozoa. And they're almost everywhere. They could be on your skin, your cell phone. They could be in volcanoes and super high temperatures, in water, ponds, and such. And we know that some of these microorganisms can be pathogenic and cause diseases in like plants and animals. But some can be quite beneficial and provide nutrients to their hosts. So just to repeat one more time, microbes have always been present all of life, and as described before, they are everywhere. Always on the look for shelter and food and creating relationships with their host. Microorganisms are widespread in nature, and though they are known to cause serious harm, they play an important role as a benefit to all life. So the start of life. In the womb, healthy babies are sterile and clean from microorganisms. And a fun fact about babies, there are around 2 trillion cells that make up that baby, morphing it into its form and different parts of its body. Now, when we are born and travel out of the womb, billions of additional cells are added to the cell count. However, this cell count did not spontaneously happen like a growth or something. It is due to the presence of microorganisms. Though we cannot see these microorganisms in action, these microbes are an essential part to an infant's health throughout their early years and development. Studies have observed that compared to childbirth, babies born from C-section face higher risk of asthma, immune diseases, and even leukemia, predominantly in urban low-income populations. Research has also suggested that this correlation is due to the presence of beneficial microorganisms found in the birth canal. As the baby continues to grow and thrive, it encounters more and more microorganisms which contribute to their growth of microbiome. Also known, breast milk is known to give an infant its exact nutrients the baby needs, as we all know. But not only does it provide nutrients, it also provides bacteria passed down from the mother. This development of a microbiome creates a relationship between the baby and microorganisms, training its immune system to attack potentially dangerous microbes, and helps additional bacteria present as well. And also, as we know, improve overall health. So now as we humans grow from our infant stages, so does our cell count. An individual who weighs around 70 kilograms is made out of 30 trillion human cells. That's a number we can't even comprehend. But as we grow and does our own cell count, so does our own microflora, which can go up to 39 trillion microbial cells. Meaning in terms of cell count and like overall DNA, we are more microbial than we are human, exactly around like 56%. So this microbial count can be influenced by the different stages in life, adolescence, pregnancy, medication, old age. These can all significantly alter your microbiome. But research has proven that diet is very responsible for your microbiome. Because of this, the amount and types of bacteria vary from person to person, as we are unique. As I mentioned before, many microbes rely on a relationship between them and a human host or animal host or even a plant host. This relationship is known as a symbiotic relationship. Now, there are three known relationships. One mutualistic, where there's an interaction with two species where they each benefit. For instance, like a flower and a bee. The bee extracts pollen from the flower and then also pollinates other flowers. So there we get a both positive relationship. There's also commensalism. It's an interaction in which one species gains benefit while the other does not receive benefit nor harm. So for instance, like whales. If you see whales, they usually have like these like rock-looking formations on their fins. Well, those are muscles, and it does not harm the whale whatsoever. It cannot even feel them. I would like to assume, but those by the muscles attaching to the whale's fin, they're able to get their nutrients while the whale moves, and they receive a benefit without harming the whale. Now, as we are kind of familiar with parasitic relationship, it's an interaction in which one species lives off a host, causing it harm. For instance, like a tick. Ticks, they extract blood and they do not provide any benefit, actually more harm to their host. So diet affects our microbiome. As mentioned before, we are filled with trillions of microbial cells. Though microorganisms can be found all over the body, it could be the skin, feet, your hands, there is a high concentration that lies in the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract, specifically in the large intestine. As we consume a diverse food source, these microorganisms that dwell in the gastrointestinal tract of the human body thrive and multiply. There is as many as 1,500 different species of bacteria living within just the colon, providing us with benefits or even perhaps just harvesting our resources. So as mentioned before, like I have a little graph picture right there. So a variety diet is what helps us have a multitude of different microorganisms that live in our gut. As a picture right here, you are in charge of your micro garden. If we plant seeds of one type of fruit or one type of plant, we're just gonna produce that one type of fruit, correct? But now if we provide different seeds, a multiple of different food sources to our own body, we're gonna breed a different variety of microorganisms. So as the picture, a low variety diet equals a lack of variety in microorganisms. A high variety diet equals a unique mix of microorganisms. The reason for this is because these organisms that live in our gut feed on different things. Some prefer high fiber foods, such as leafy greens and vegetables. Some prefer sugars and starches, and some thrive on greasy foods. Like our gut is like our personal micro garden. We're constantly deciding what we eat and what we want to grow. If we eat healthy in the sense we eat a diet high in variety, we will most likely produce an abundance of unique microbes that may provide benefits to our overall health. Now, if we consistently eat a simple, stale diet that lacks variety, such as a high fast food diet and like just simple carbohydrates, we would breed bacteria that prefer those types of foods and even cut the amounts of microbes living on our gut due to the insufficient amount of nutrients that reach our GI tract, specifically the colon side of the GI tract. It is understood that life likes to trap you in circles and constant loops, especially when it comes to diet, like when we're trying to change a diet. If you end up following a diet consistent in high processed foods, those types of microbes will derive from those foods. This can ultimately negatively affect our overall health, immune system, and even cause inflammation in the lining of the colon. Studies have shown the difference of microbial count comparing a diet of strict animal food and a plant-based diet. Though we can be influenced and change our diet, once we fall back to our regular eating habit, our microbiome returns back to its normal state. So consistency is key. You can't just change for a week and just reap the benefits long term. No, change is required, and consistent change is also required to improve our guts and our microbiome overall. So we keep hearing I keep mentioning microorganisms and like food for bacteria. So what does this all mean? So in our diet, there are two parts that directly affect our microbiome, and these are known as probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics are living microorganisms found in food that offer their host a benefit. Quite literally, they are bacteria that live in food. For example, by helping to enhance or restore our health to our gut microbiome. Many of the microorganisms that naturally live along our GI tract are similar to microorganisms found in foods and drinks. Probiotic bacteria are abundantly found in fermented foods, such as yogurt, sauerkraut, kombucha, kimchi. But I want you to keep in mind that not all types of fermented foods necessarily qualify as probiotic. For example, alcoholic beverages. For food to be considered probiotic, there must be a sufficient living bacteria that survive the food processing system. And the bacteria that survive have to be ones that are known to benefit human. Two well-studied type of bacteria are known as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And both are commonly found in these probiotic-rich foods. Lactobacillus bacteria are responsible for that acidic taste that you find in yogurt and like pickles. And probiotics can also be found in dietary supplement form and are usually added to food products like granola bars, shakes, and even fruit juice. Now, prebiotics, on the other hand, are the food components used by microbes and are used to provide nourishment and energy to these microorganisms. Therefore, they offer a health benefit to us too. Many prebiotics that are found in high fiber foods are not broken down by human digestive enzymes that are secreted in the small intestines. Since they are not broken down and absorbed in the small intestines, they go ahead and move them to the large intestines where most microorganisms are present. So basically, our undigested food are the nutrients for our microorganisms that live in our gut. So vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes like peas and beans are among the best sources of naturally occurring prebiotic fiber. Even ingredients in some packaged foods like this ingredient called oligosaccharides are also called as prebiotics as well. In general, most people don't eat enough fiber. I know we heard it so many times, fiber is important, but it's not only important for your heart health, but also for your gut microbes. The average American eats about 15 grams of fiber per day, while the recommendation is around 25 to 30 grams of fiber every day. With an insufficient number of prebiotics, the microflora starts to diminish over time. So as I mentioned before, there are diverse species of bacteria living in our gut. There are over 1,000 species. But most of these bacteria fall into two categories or families of anaerobic microorganisms. They're called the Firmicutes and the Bacteroidetes. Now, these bacteria are considered, as I mentioned, anaerobic, which rely on this metabolism known as fermentation to digest our undigestible foods or prebiotics for a source of energy. Now, our gut microbiome plays fundamental roles in our body and provide different benefits to its host. The main impact gut microbes have is on our metabolism through the act of fermentation. As mentioned, foods that are not digested and absorbed in the small intestines, prebiotics, will reach the large intestines, and here these prebiotics will undergo fermentation, creating a byproduct known as short-chain fatty acids, 95% being acetate, butyrate, and propionate. Now, these short-chain fatty acids have a few options and provide different benefits to us. Short-chain fatty acids may nourish the cells that line the gut, improving overall colon health and its integrity. Short-chain fatty acids may also enter the bloodstream and travel to different organs. They may also act as signals to communicate with the brain and regulate the immune system and inflammation. Many factors affect the amount of short-chain fatty acids in your colon, including how many microorganisms are present and the food sources that you take at the time. Though we know what these gut microbes are capable of, we do not know how it is regulated, meaning we don't know how much short-chain fatty acids are going to be produced at an exact amount, nor when is the signal to stop. But most research suggests that it is attributed to the production of the variety of short-chain fatty acids. So diets high in prebiotics promote the presence of bacteria with the capability to ferment prebiotic substances, resulting in decreased short-chain fatty acid production, which contribute to benefits to overall health. And now I mentioned the three short-chain fatty acids, they have three different functions. So for instance, acetate These are produced by lactobacillus and bifidobacterial, some microorganisms I mentioned, and is an important regulator of acidity in your gut. It acts as an acidic stabilizer to provide an environment where microbes can thrive. Now, butyrate is produced by the members of the Firmicutes family. So these short-chain fatty acids provide, they're actually the main energy for the source of cells lining the large intestine, providing 70% of the large intestine cells their energy requirements. So just imagine that if we have an absence of this short-chain fatty acids butyrate, what do you think is gonna happen? So obviously the cells are not gonna get their surplus amount of energy. Like as we mentioned, 70% of the energy found in the colon sites are from butyrate, and cells will not be able to be replaced readily. This will then cause problems to your large intestine, whether it be cancerous, whether it be like peptic ulcers. It will provide, your large intestine is not getting enough nutrients to multiply. Then we have propionate, which forms from the bacteria Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes. They are known as anti-inflammatory properties, and studies have shown that it assists in the stimulation of hormones. So it can help you specifically for satiety and like helping us feel full after eating. So just a little thing in the bottom, just a little equation. So we have prebiotics. In the presence of bacteria with the ability to ferment, prebiotics will create short-chain fatty acids. And from short-chain fatty acids, it will overall benefit our health. Easy as that. So what are the benefits of short-chain fatty acids exactly? So we already mentioned a few, but like overall, what can this provide us to like current diseases out there, and just what can it do? As mentioned, short-chain fatty acids provide a wide array of benefits. Today, research has shown that short-chain fatty acids are very beneficial to overall health and can be utilized to help prevent and manage certain diseases, such as digestive disorders, colon cancer, diabetes, and heart health. It has been proven that, as I mentioned, butyrate can be used as an energy by the colon cells. And as I said, it's up to 70% of energy used by colon cells come from short-chain fatty acids. This is significant because our colon cells rely on these fermentation byproducts to maintain energy levels, multiply, and replace dead or removed cells in the colon. Now, if cells in the GI tract are not replaced, it may lead to further issues such as the formation of ulcers, such as ulcerative colitis, and even Crohn's disease are the two main types of inflammatory bowel diseases, both being characterized by chronic bowel inflammation. Because of its anti-inflammatory properties as well, and ability to provide energy to the colon, butyrate has been used to treat both of these conditions actually. For further evidence, a study involving 22 patients with ulcerative colitis find consuming 60 grams of oat bran every day for 3 months improved symptoms significantly. Research has also suggested that short-chain fatty acids may play a key role in the prevention and treatment of certain cancers as well, mainly colon cancer. As I mentioned before, like it's just the same thing again. Those large intestines rely on butyrate as an energy source. So if we don't have these cells are like replacing the colon sites, we're going to see a reduction in our overall health, and specifically focused on the GI tract. So also evidence has shown that short-chain fatty acids, specifically butyrate, can have positive effects in humans with type 2 diabetes. A relationship has been found in which individuals with type 2 diabetes tend to have much lower microbial count compared to healthy individuals. A number of other studies have also reported the association between fiber, prebiotic, and improved blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity. Many studies have also linked that high fiber prebiotic diets help reduce the risk of heart diseases. Fiber has been known to reduce cholesterol, overall improving heart health. But studies have shown that short-chain fatty acids assist in the reduction of cholesterol by reducing cholesterol production, as short-chain fatty acids are found to interact with key genes that make cholesterol. So how do we maintain this healthy gut? Since we have a better understanding of our microbiome, we want to first understand our diet plays a key role in the development of our gut biome. As mentioned before, a consistent diet in high prebiotics, such as whole foods and whole grains, help us maintain a diverse and plentiful microbiome. Eating these foods that include a rich amounts of fiber will lead to a flourishing microflora. So a consistent diet that includes these foods is key for a healthy gut. Another way to diversify your microbiome is eating fermented foods such as yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, and even pickles, or anything else with high microbial count may introduce new microorganisms to your micro community. However, it is important to note that many yogurts, especially flavored yogurts, contain high levels of sugar. So just keep in mind when you're selecting a probiotic food that is actually giving more benefit than more just unnecessary nutrients that your body needs. So therefore, the best type of yogurt to consume is just plain natural yogurt, which is only consists of milk and bacteria mixtures. As mentioned, it takes about 2 years for infants to develop a significant microflora with a wide array of bacteria. Studies have shown that breast milk contains sugar that feeds certain bacteria as well, not only providing just bacteria and antibodies as well. So what's it called? Since the infants who are formula fed, they have significantly less amounts of microorganisms, resulting in lack of variety in their guts. So it's not necessarily me trying to like suggest, go for breast milk. Just have that in mind that there are some correlations that link some certain diseases to someone who's preferred to be formula fed. But yeah, overall. So as I want to tie in, I want to start this portion of my presentation. But before we get started, I want to know if there's any questions in the chat, and I would like to answer any questions if there's any. And April, if you don't mind reading them out, because I can't see the chat for some reason.
Yeah, no problem. There are currently no questions in the chat box.
Okay, awesome. And if anyone has any questions, feel free just to type it in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. So we're gonna get started to the food demonstration portion of this presentation. And today's demonstration is gonna be fermented pickles. So cucumbers are a low-calorie fruit that are enjoyed by many. We put them in salads, mixed fruit bowls, maybe with some lime and chili. But the mighty cucumber does not only stop at its natural state. Fermented cucumbers, aka pickles, are a popular staple here in America. We put them in our sandwiches, burgers, and dressings, and many other recipes. But do you actually know the science behind the pickle? Throughout our presentation, we talked about microorganisms and their metabolic process of fermentation. But not only does fermentation take place within us, as you may have heard, it's also a process used in the culinary world, such as making fermented drinks, yogurt, sauerkrauts, kombucha, and of course, the cucumber pickle. And like other fermented foods, pickles are packed with probiotics to help us in our journey to improve our guts. Now, the fermentation process is the most important step when making pickles. But I want everyone to keep in mind that not all pickles that you see are actually fermented. For instance, if you go to the store and you see those pickles in jars, they're usually just soaking up in vinegar and spices. And actually, there is no fermentation process involved. So even though they are tasty, they do not provide the greater health benefits that fermented pickles do. So when cucumbers actually ferment, healthy bacteria that is, we cannot see them, and we could try washing them as hard as we can, but there is bacteria growing on the pickle, known as lactobacillus. Now, this specific bacteria breaks down the natural sugars and even the prebiotic that makes up the cucumber, and it uses it as an energy source, and that's how the bacteria grows. We discussed earlier that a byproduct of fermentation are short chain fatty acids, but there's also another one that could, that we could actually see in our naked eye, which is carbon dioxide. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with fermentation, but when you're fermenting something such as kombucha, you could see a lot of gas bubbles start going to the surface. And this is a byproduct of the microorganisms living and growing in that solution. So this process is what gives, the fermentation process is also what gives pickles or any other fermented food their sour taste due to the production of lactic acid from the lactobacillus. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a salt brine, and then I'm going to have the brine sit on my counter for around 7 days. And throughout these days, the pickles will start to ferment. And I'm just going to switch over to a different screen, and I'm going to get started. Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys saw the recipe, and if you guys are following along, that'd be awesome. But right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. So what you wanna have readily on you is obviously you wanna have your cucumbers right here. So I have these cucumbers here. These are actually Persian cucumbers. As I suggested on the recipe slide that curvy cucumbers are preferred. You just need a small size cucumber, or actually any size cucumber that you want, as long as it fits in your jar. So I'm using this this jar. It's nothing special. It just has a gasket right here just to prevent any spillage or anything like that. But it's just a normal jar. And I could see that these pickles fit perfectly and fine in here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use Persian cucumbers. Curvy cucumbers are known to have a more plumpier and retain more water. But I like Persian cucumbers because they have a more of a crunch and a snap. So if you can hear, they have a really nice snap. And if you see inside, their water content is not really high, but by all means, the brine will penetrate significantly, and you're gonna get a sour pickle overall. So what you wanna first do is you wanna wash your cucumbers. And the thing is, do not use soap or any other additive while washing them. And to even suggest further, I wouldn't suggest them scrubbing as hard as you can. Yes, ideally you would like to take off the dirt, but you actually want to keep the bacteria that's on the pickle on the pickle. So what we want to start is wash your cucumbers. Then I want you to go ahead and get some water. So depending on your jar size, for instance, I have this jar. You want to go off of how much water can fit in this jar. So what I did first, I put water inside this jar, and I'm going to transfer it to this bigger pitcher. Now, why I want to do that is because the brine is going to consist of water and salt. So the question also comes about is what kind of salt should you use? You can use, honestly, any salt, but I prefer, and also other forums have suggested to use kosher salt, since kosher salt doesn't really stick when you're putting in the solution, or like it doesn't clump together as much as compared to other salts. So what I want to first do is I want to transfer this water that I have here into this pitcher. And what I want to first do is I want to weigh and zero down the pitcher because I want to find how much water I put in this jar. So remember, there's no specific amount of water that you need to use as long as it fits into this jar. So I'm gonna put this pitcher on here and I'm gonna zero it. So I have currently 0 grams of water in this pitcher. I'm gonna then add the water. And now I have 824 grams of water in this pitcher. Now the question is, how much salt do I put into this water? Now, in order for lactobacillus, the bacteria that lives on this cucumber, to thrive, it needs a specific salinity point. So research suggested that lactobacillus thrives in a salinity concentration of 2 to 3%. But what I like to do, because I do like a little saltier pickle, is that I like to put it just a little bit higher and have it at 3.5%. Would this affect the lactobacillus? Insignificantly, but yes, it does. It might not make it grow fast or as fast, but it will grow in that concentration of salt. So But the thing is, you have to keep in mind that it is very important to have within that range, 2 to 3%, or even a little bit over or a little bit lower. But you don't want to have significantly less salt nor significantly more salt. Because now if you have that, the microorganisms that live on the pickle will not multiply and they will not live. And they might even certainly die. And what other things that might happen if you have a lower salt level in your brine, that other microorganisms that live on the bacteria, live on the pickle, live on the cucumber, can be produced. And these other microorganisms can be also pathogenic. So that's why it's very crucial that since we are growing our garden of microorganisms in here, that we need to have that specifically salinity point. But remember, you're not gonna grow a bad pathogenic bacteria the chances of that is very low, but it's very crucial that you have that salinity range when you're making that brine. So how do I get a 3.5% or a 3% salt concentration in my liquid? So we're gonna do a quick little math here. So as I mentioned, we have 824 grams of water in here. And I want a 3.5% solution of salt in this pitcher. So what you wanna do is just type in, if you have a calculator phone out, you go to your calculator, you put 824. So that's how many grams of water I have here. Then what you want to do is find 3.5% of that. So times 0.035, or you could just do 35%. This leads me to 28.84. So I need 28 grams, or to round it out, 29 grams of salt into this pitcher. So now, since I have this, you just do an addition to whatever the weight of the water that you have. So since I have 824 plus 824, that's how much weight I'm gonna have once I add my salt to this pitcher. So what you wanna do now is start adding the salt, and then until it reaches your desired weight, that's when you stop. There you go. So I reached 852. So now what I want to do is that since I have my salt brine, my solution right here, I want to start mixing it, making sure all the salt is dissolved and incorporated into water, and there's just pure uniformity, and you didn't see anything more salt on the bottom, more salt. This process, it's much more faster when you have like a lukewarm water or even boiled water. And also, you don't want to have your water too cold, because then now you're gonna have to wait for the water to cool down, to cool down to a room temperature. So just have your water sitting out like how I had mine. It was sitting on the counter for a little bit. So while I'm stirring this, I'm just gonna go ahead and explain the other ingredients I have. So a necessity to making pickles, not really a necessity, but a preferred herb of mine or plant is dill. So we all hear about dill pickles is because obviously they incorporate dill to their pickles. Another one used is black peppercorn. So this is just gonna give you a spice to the pickles. I like pepper. I actually put a little bit more pepper into my cucumbers. And I just want you to know that all of these ingredients, there's not really anything to measure off of. It just goes on based off your taste. And now the question comes up, well, how do I like my pickles taste? So the thing is with pickling is that it's a process of elimination, and it's a trial. So you're not always gonna get the perfect pickle every time, but you could get a consistent pickle that is to your liking. So today you can make your first pickle, and maybe you think it's a little bit too peppery or it has a different flavor that you don't like. Then the next time you make a pickle, you just omit some other stuff. How about I do less black peppercorn, or how about I do less dill? So I mentioned some options in the ingredients list. I like to use cloves, specifically whole cloves. Also coriander seed, whole, and also whole mustard seed. Like I mentioned, these are just to my liking, but they're all optional. And I also use a bay leaf. And also what you wanted to use as well is garlic, just cloves. You don't need to crush them or anything, and preferably not minced, just to have them there. And like, I like garlic taste, so, and a lot of forms use garlic, so I was like, I might as well use garlic as well. And also, another thing about the cucumber, guys, is try to find, I know organic has its thing, but when it comes to pickles, try to actually use organic pickles, because they will tend to have less additives on the cucumber. And also, you want to prevent using cucumbers that have that wax coating, because you know some fruits have that protective wax coating. We just don't want, we want to prevent having anything additional on the cucumber, so that the microorganisms can thrive and just live in their current situation. All right, so I have my salt brine, and it's all of the salt is dissolved, and it's ready to go. So what you want to do is take out your jar and put on your cutting board or have it on the side. And what you want to do is have a knife out. Just to cut your dill. If you have it fresh like this and it has roots growing, you just take out your dill and just remove the root section. So in terms of dill amount, you just want a handful of dill, nothing too much. Obviously, if you do have a substantial amount of cucumbers and it's a bigger jar, you want to fit more dill in, by all means go ahead. But usually just like a handful of dill is goes a long way for this type of jar, for how big it is, and just to my liking as well. So what you want to do is you want to cut the roots off. So chop it off, put it in there. So now I have my dill. I'm gonna put it on the side right there. So the first step you want to do is start putting these cucumbers into this jar. So what you want to do is that you want to have them standing up. So what you do is just tilt the jar and start putting the cucumbers just as so. So I'll put them there, have them around. And now once you go like around a little bit halfway, you want to start adding some couple of dill on the sides as well. So I'm gonna get some dill. And I just want to put it as so, probably in the middle, just so I can get, so the salt brine can go traversing through its currents. So once I do that, I'm gonna start adding more cucumbers. Then I'm gonna put my dill once again. And also throughout this time, you could add garlics too around. So for instance, my garlic clove, I want to put one right there. I'm gonna add pickled cucumber to cover it. I'm gonna add another one to the side. I'll put my last cucumber. And then just add the last garlic there as well. All right, so we have our cucumbers in, we have our dill in, we have our garlic in. Now we're gonna add our black peppercorn. So as I mentioned, it's to taste and consistency to have a preferred pickle. So what you want to actually do is you do want to measure out how much ingredients you have, so the next time you make a batch, it will come out the same, tasting the same way. So I like to use just 1 tablespoon of black peppercorn. So I'm gonna add that in there. I'll give it a little shake just so all one can go on the bottom. And then I'm gonna add my optionals now. So I'm gonna add 1 leaf of bay leaf. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of yellow mustard seed. Half a tablespoon of coriander seed. And half a tablespoon of whole cloves. And as I mentioned, it's to your liking, and you could put as many spices as you want, or actually if you just want a regular dill pickle, you could just go buy cucumber, dill, and black peppercorn and garlic. And that's all you need, to be honest. So now, since I have all my ingredients in my jar here, I'm gonna start adding the salt brine. So I already made my 3.5% concentration of salt in here. And all I'm gonna do is just simply add it into it there. And voila. Now, some important things to know is that if you can see, my pickles are fully submerged in my jar. Now let's say, what if your jar does not have a covering on top, or it's not tightly sealed, or just there's airways going through the thing. As long as the pickles are submerged, you have zero problem. So if I have an open jar and my pickles start shooting up and going towards the surface, what I want to do is now is add a weight. So I have this weight over here, and if it's perfectly on top of the pickles and it's perfectly sized for the jar lid. And what is this going to do is going to keep my pickles submerged to prevent it to rise. So now what happens if it rises? Well, if it rises and you don't have a solid gasket or like a tight steel jar, other microorganisms going around are going to go on top of the pickle, and it's going to produce some mold or some unwanted microorganisms, which will lead it to spoil. So it is very imperative and very important that you have something to keep them submerged, or if you're using a tight air-sealed gasket like this, that is perfectly fine. So since my pickles are not going up and I do have a tight seal, I'm not going to go ahead and use a weight to put the pickles down. So now once this is finished, you want to close it. And voila, now we have a pickle jar. You want to give it a little tight little stir, go for it, just so you can have introduce the spices around the cucumbers. And voila. Now, are we done? No, not even close. Another thing that is a necessity when it comes to pickle making is patience. These are not done. They still have yet to be fermented. They still have yet to show signs of carbon dioxide to know that it's fermenting. It has a long way to go. So how do we know when these pickles are ready? Well, first of all, we need time. So we're gonna give this around 7 days or so, and I'm gonna let it sit on this countertop on just literally on the side where it's not disturbing me. And I'm just gonna leave it alone for 7 days. Now, there are different factors when it comes to this. For instance, temperature. Specific lactobacillus thrives in the temperature in the range between 30 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. Now, to us Americans, that is 84 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So obviously, how are we gonna, do we need a temperature controlled climate room? No. That temperature is only for optimal growth for bacteria, just the growth rate. At this temperature, lactobacillus will grow tremendously, and it's gonna just keep growing at its peak. But it does not mean having a temperature lower or even a temperature higher if you live in a very, very, very hot room. It's not gonna prevent growth of bacteria. It will grow, it just won't grow as fast. So let's say, I don't want my pickles to be on the countertop, but it's ugly. I think it looks cool, but if you're someone like that, can you leave them in the fridge? Yes, you can. But be aware, since you are in a cold place, the bacteria will take a longer time to grow, almost as long as 4 to 6 weeks. That is a very long time to eat your pickles. And you're just gonna be angry there because you're gonna try pickle and it's not gonna taste like anything. You're just gonna have a salty pickle, which is not nice. You want a sour, flavorful pickle filled with spices. So what you need to do, if you do decide to put this in the fridge, just wait 4 to 6 weeks. Now, how do we know if it's ready based off appearance? Well, first of all, when you let the pickling fermentation process happen, you're gonna notice a lot of bubbles on the surface of your solution. And it's gonna look weird, and you'll be like, oh no, is that okay to eat? Yes, it's still safe to eat. That is just, as I mentioned, a byproduct of fermentation known as carbon dioxide. And also important, very important to know, if you are using a tight air-sealed jar like I am, it is very important that at least once every 2 days or so to open the jar just to let this brine burp. Yes, literally burp. Because if you keep this airtight sealed for more than 7 days, if you do the 4-week process, you have the chance of the jar erupting. Yes, erupting. It will blow up on you and the jar will break due to the immense pressure of carbon dioxide in here. So it is important, just let your thing burp. Just let it burp every 2 days, just to prevent that possibility of the jar exploding on your face. And I have heard many stories of my friends when they're even making kombucha, like another fermentation drink, that the jar has broken on them. So it's very important just to let your little pickle jar burp once in a while, okay? So we know that carbon dioxide is an important signal to know it's fermenting. Another thing is color. So I have went ahead and create a pickle jar. As you can see, the color is very cloudy. Now there is a huge difference though. There's a difference between cloudy and just straight up green. No, if it's just straight up green color, that is due to the presence of dill and the cucumber and the other material inside. That's just causing it to green. What you want to do to check is if it's cloudy green, and once you shake it, you see like little things floating around like a white cloud moving. That's when you know that this pickle jar has been fermenting. As you can even see, there are bubbles right here. So I know this jar has been fermenting. So, okay, we have gas, we have color. Now the other thing is taste. So now these pickles I have fermented on the countertop for 6 days. And then after 6 days, I placed them in the fridge. Now, why did I not wait the full 7 days or the full 4 weeks if I wanted to like that? The reason is because when it comes to fermentation, it goes off of your taste. I keep saying your taste because it is based off your preference. I like my pickles to be brined, to be fermented for at least 6 days because I like them that sour. So this pickle is to the liking of me. Not to someone else, but not to my friend. It's for me. I like my pickles fermented for 6 days. This is gonna produce enough lactic acid to my liking that when I bite into this pickle, it's not gonna be too sour, nor is it gonna be too not sour, if that's the word. So here we are. So to show you the difference as well is that we want the brine to penetrate into the cucumber. So if we cut into this cucumber, we can notice that, yes, the brine has completely submerged into the pickle. It is very dark in color, but not only is it dark in color, I just want to reassure you that it is not mushy at all. This pickle is not soft and it has a nice snap. And like, it's very crunchy. It's not like grossly like those pickles that you see in sandwich, like fast food restaurants where it's very like flimsy. No, these have a nice snap to them and they are crunchy and they are sour to my liking and they are full of spices. These pickles are perfect for sandwiches. If you just like enjoying pickles like me, just biting into them, they're perfect and it tastes amazing. We can compare it to a cucumber that has not been fermented. This pickle, you can clearly see the difference of color. This one's just all dark in color and uniformity, while this one is, you can see the different shades of green and white because this pickle is not fermented. Huge, huge difference. And you will notice that your pickles may enlarge in the salt brine as fluids are entering into the cucumber, but don't be alarmed. As long as it has a nice snap, it's crunchy, the pickle is safe to eat. So how about scenarios when the pickle is not safe to eat? Well, we know that there are byproducts of created by the microorganisms in here, specifically by lactobacillus. But in some cases, you may have a mold formation on the top. So if I open this, I have no mold here, but you might have some white blankets of mold. Is mold bad? No, not all the time. What's gonna happen is the mold will not grow inside the brine. So that's why I said it was very important that the pickles be fully submerged so that anything on the top won't grow and spoil. So if we start getting mold formation on the top, don't be alarmed. It has not even touched the pickles whatsoever. It is due to the fact that if you have a weight on top, mold is just growing around the weight. And probably it's because your weight was not cleaned sufficient. A huge thing to do just to remedy that is that you want to place your jar into the sink. You want to get a salty water, just so it could be uniform to your brine created. And you want to just overfill the jar and just let the mold literally just run off the jar. This will prevent anything from like all the precipitants that were created on top just to fall off and keep all the spices inside the jar. Simply as that. So don't be alarmed if you see mold forming on top. It's okay. Just take it off and your pickles are 100% safe to eat. Now, how about I get my pickle and I notice that it's very loose and it's very like wiggly, and I tried breaking it, but there was no snap. Now, this is not an alarm, but this may lead to, hey, your pickle might be spoiling. This is due to probably that the salt brine wasn't at that certain concentration, and maybe it's just causing spoilage to your cucumbers. So that is one, like, I should prevent eating that. Also, smell. Pickles smell great. They smell delicious. They smell of spices, dill, and cucumber and salt. If you smell your pickle jar and if it smells bad, if it has a foul odor, that's a huge no. That means your pickles are bad. Throw those things away. Wash your jar with boiling water and soap, and don't eat those pickles. That's just spoilage of the cucumber. That means some other microorganisms was present and it caused spoilage to your cucumber. That's a no. Throw those pickles away. Also, if you just do not feel comfortable eating your pickles, by all means, if you do not feel comfortable, just throw them away. It doesn't have to be a reason or cause. If you just think, I don't really want to eat them, just throw them away. Now, shelf life. These pickles, as I mentioned, they went through a processes known as fermentation. Fermentation has been used through many, many, many years before we were born, such a long time ago. It has used to preserve food. So now, if we have something fermenting, it's gonna last a long, long time, especially if it's in the fridge. Within like if you have it just outside, like at room temperature, they can last within like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, like a while. But if it's in a controlled setting, such as a fridge, it's gonna last like 4 months, 6 months. As a pure pickle, as a good tasting, same flavor pickle. But just understand that they do last indefinitely, like, and I say this just till they spoil, but they do last a long, long time. But also keep in mind, if you keep them for a very long time, these things are going to continue to ferment, and their taste will change. They will get more sour. You will see more bubbles form, and that's just due to the bacteria doing its own thing. It's fermenting, creating lactic acid, making the pickle more sour. So just understand that if you're gonna have a pickle ferment, it's gonna be more sour the longer it's out. Just have that in mind. So yeah, and that's how you make pickles, guys. If you do have any questions, just have it on the chat. And I'm gonna go ahead and look at the chat real quick. And if you guys have any questions, just type them in there.
Thank you so much, Fernando. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask, or you can type them in the chat. This was very informative. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, Fernando.
Of course.
I can't wait to go make some pickles. Thank you, Carmen.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, these pickles are great with sandwiches. Also, just keep in mind, in terms of like the nutrition regarding about it, these pickles are salty. They are salty. If you do have like some heart condition and like you are just avoiding salt, it is more suggested that you do not eat these pickles, as they were in a salt brine for a very, very long time. So they will be salty. But just keep in mind, they still taste great if you do eat them alone. They have their nice snap and everything. But like as I mentioned, if you do have some heart disease or heart condition, or you're just preventing from eating excess amount of salt, I prefer you just try to avoid these.
We do have one question from Daphne. It says, can the water be regular tap water, or does it have to be filtered?
Okay, so this question goes, because I do a lot of pickling. A lot of people think the chlorine from like tap water, the natural chlorine present, interferes with the with the fermentation process, it's very insignificant. Yes, chlorine does affect fermentation, but it's not going to completely stop the fermentation process. Nor will you even tell that, oh no, my thing's not fermenting. It will ferment. What I like to use, I just like to use regular filtered water, nothing specific. That's how I grew up, just drinking filtered water. So that's what I'm going to put into something I'm going to eat. You can use tap water. You can use bottled water. There's no, what's it called? There's nothing specific. You may see in, like, if you do look up in forums that, oh yes, prevent tap water, get filtered water or something with non-chlorine water. It's going to come out the same. I've done both. I've done tap, I've done non-tap, I've done bottled. But remember, the most important thing is the brine. The brine solution is what's going to determine the growth rate of the bacteria. If you have a too salty brine, the lactobacillus will not grow significantly. If you have a lower salinity point, the lactobacillus will not grow significantly, and even other microorganisms can grow. So instead of deciding what water should you use, it's making sure the brine is at its right concentration.
And we have one more question from Claudia on that note. Is it okay to have salinity above 3.5%?
It is. It's just like how I mentioned. It's gonna create an environment where the lactobacillus will not completely thrive. I just suggest you go off of 3.2 to 3.5%, or even 2.5 to 3.5, or 2 to 3. Just, you want to be within that range. A too salty brine, what's it called? It's going to be very, very, very salty. Trust me, going up like a higher percentage of that will make a very, very salty brine. But having it like above 4, like it's fine. Your thing is going to grow. But if you have it like around 5 or even 5 or greater, no, don't expect any fermentation to happen, because the lactobacillus will not grow.
Great. Any other questions? Comments?
If there's no comments, I just want to say thank you to everyone for sticking around. As I can see, 15 people. That's cool. I really hope I was clear, and you guys learned something today, and hopefully you guys try out this pickle recipe. We will try to get you these slides. I do have everything I said was by peer-reviewed journal articles, and all my sources are located on the slides. We'll try to get these slides out to you guys so you can just see the sources I use. And if you guys want to just see more research about it, by all means, just go on the last few slides, and you're going to have a huge list of all the sources per slide that I use. And you guys can do your own research on the cucumber and fermentation and just short-chain fatty acids. Yeah.
We had one more question.
Of course.
Claudia asked, what else can you use with the brine?
So like how I mentioned, I use for just standard, like just a standard dill pickle, you want to use dill, black peppercorn, garlic, and cucumber, obviously. And like how I mentioned, the optionals that I use was whole seeds, coriander, cloves, and mustard seeds, and bay leaf. Those are to my liking. Like how I mentioned, when you start into the pickling process, you're gonna just keep doing it over again, because you want to find that right taste to your liking. Also, what I like to do, I like a spicy pickle. What I like to do also is I like to get a pepper, specifically cherry peppers, cut them up and put them in there. Cherry peppers have a little sweet taste, but they also have their kick from the capsaicin. So I'm gonna have a nice salty, spicy pickle. Now, the thing is, what you want to prevent is adding more acidity to the brine. So I suggest you don't add lemon, you don't add vinegar, you don't add anything else high in acid and acid. Why? Because lactobacillus also has a pH value or acidity point where they like to thrive, which is 5. Introducing other foreign acidic products is going to prevent from lactobacillus to grow. Now, wait a minute. Lactobacillus creates lactic acid. Well, now the lactic acid produced from lactobacillus is enough acidity for it to thrive on. Why would something kill you based off what you produce? You know what I'm trying to say? So don't worry. You can add whatever you want. You can add spicy chili peppers and stuff like that. It's whatever to your liking, and just have fun with it. And if there's any more questions, I'll stick around, and thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it.
We also have a survey from the Maryland Magaram Center. It's having a little copy paste issue over here, but I am putting that survey in the chat if you all don't mind taking that Survey Monkey about this workshop. The Maryland Magaram Center likes to do an evaluation at the end of their workshop, so they would greatly appreciate that. And then thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Fernando. This was so informative and so much fun. The Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing will have another Mindfulness Monday workshop and Wellbeing Wednesday workshop next week. So thanks so much. If you can take a few minutes to fill out that survey. Bye, Fernando.
I'll stick around if anyone has more questions, but once again, thank you, everyone.
Fernando?
Yes.
Hi, this is Claudia. What I meant to ask in the question was that brine solution, what other vegetables can it get used with?
Oh, the brine solution. Okay.
Yeah, what else can you pickle?
So you like, as we heard of pickled cucumbers, pickled onion, pickled peppers, actually banana peppers. So the thing is, you have to first find out what kind of microorganisms is being breeded or growing within that vegetable. For instance, I know that pickles, cucumbers, and squash contain lactobacillus, and everything I said applies to that to that vegetable. Now, let's say I want to do cabbage, pickled cabbage. Now, am I going to use a brine for cabbage? No. The reason for that is because cabbage is already filled with water, and it has enough water to thrive off. So actually, I'm just going to put salt in there. Now, the thing is, that's a whole different other discussion, but there are forums out there and like a bunch of different articles that will tell you how much salt to put into that cabbage. And the reason why I'm trying to say is that not everything goes off of this salinity point of 3.5. I know that pickles, cucumbers specifically, or more specifically, lactobacillus goes off of that, but different things will call for different measures. So for instance, if I wanted to do a banana pepper, pickled banana peppers, I haven't tried that yet, but I first need to find out what microorganisms live off of banana peppers. Is it lactobacillus? I'm pretty sure it is, but it's just safe to find out. Would I go ahead and do a pickling with this brine? Honestly, would I? Yes. I'm just like, if I get bored one day, I'm just gonna put some onions in there to see what happens. Is it 100% safe? 80%. The reason why I say 80% is because it's going to go off of your nose and all the different signals. Is it really bubbling? Does it have a foul smell? As long as it's not showing sign of spoilage or anything else, it is safe to eat. And remember, you want to keep it submerged so any other microorganisms growing on the top does not penetrate into the vegetable or fruit. Just have that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. And just to give you different options, not only can you pickle cucumbers, you can also pickle, like how I mentioned, banana peppers, onions, cabbage, purple cabbage. To be honest, you can ferment like almost every different single food vegetable out there. And like how it goes based off your liking. And don't worry, you won't get frustrated. Instead, you're gonna be like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. How about if I add chili into this? How about if I add this other spice? How about if I take out this spice? It's just gonna go off of your liking, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I might try some carrots.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah. The things with carrots, just keep in mind just to have them submerged in there a little bit longer since they are kind of tightly packed. Just give it a few more days for it to penetrate, and so the brine can appreciate it there.
Great, this was so much fun. Thank you so much, Fernando.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Thanks everyone for joining. Hope you have a great day. Any other questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Fernando. Thank you, everyone.
All right, I think that's everyone. Thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Will you be with the Magaram Center again next semester in the fall?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely love to have you back.
All right, then. Is there anything else, Cassidy?
Nope, I think that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
April, is there anything else that you want to say, or we'll leave it at that?
That was amazing. Great job.
Thank you. I got a little nervous in the beginning, so I was talking a little fast, but hopefully I slowed down. I wasn't sure.
Thank you so much. We're all inspired to ferment some cucumbers now.
Yeah, you were great, Fernando.
Thank you so much, Cassidy, for having me over, and thank you, April, for suggesting me to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Well, if you want to talk later today, let me know. Otherwise, I guess we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. All right, then. I'm going to just go ahead and clean up over here, and then I'm going to head back home because I'm at a friend's house.
Okay. All right. Have a good one.
You have a good one. All right, Cassidy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.